I always have a hard time deciding what my favorite Nintendo franchise is. Most people just jump right into Zelda or Mario. I've always liked those franchises, though, that are lesser known to the general public, and Metroid fits right into that category. So I think that's my favorite. I've always seen it as the underdog of Nintendo. But you know, sometimes even Nintendo ignores it completely, even having some of its main entries skip an entire console generation. Nintendo 64 didn't get a Metroid game at all. I mean, Samus appeared in the original Smash Brothers, but she didn't get her own game. The original Wii got Metroid the Other M, which honestly was one of the weaker entries in the series, but the Wii was home to the phenomenal Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, so I do have to give them credit for that. But then the Wii U came out and it skipped Metroid completely, so fans have been drooling for the return of Samus. Yes, her name is Samus, not Metroid. I've heard that mistake way more than I should have from the same people that call Link Zelda. The last major Metroid release was Other M, back in 2010, 7 years ago. So at E3 this year, when Nintendo announced a new Metroid coming out, I flipped out. Finally, Metroid Prime 4 comes out on the Switch at some point in the future, and we just got this little game on the 3DS called Metroid Samus Returns, a full-blown reimagining of 1991's Game Boy exclusive Metroid 2 Return of Samus. So today we're going to have some fun talking Metroid, and looking at both of these games in a Metroid double review. Let's start with some background information. What is Metroid all about? The world of Metroid takes place in a future where mankind is taken to the stars and is governed by the Galactic Federation. And it stars a young woman named Samus Aran, who was orphaned as a child when space pirates, led by their commander Ridley, attacked her colony. Samus survived and escaped to be raised by a mysterious bird-like race called the Chozo, which trained her in combat and gave her an awesome cybernetic suit that can be upgraded with all sorts of craziness. And she decides to become a bounty hunter, earning the reputation over the years as being the best. So she's basically a female orange Nintendo Boba Fett. At some point, space pirates attacked a research vessel containing samples of an unknown species discovered on the planet SR-388. This unknown species is what the game is named after, Metroid. Metroids are jellyfish-looking monsters that latch onto the heads of other living creatures and literally drain their life force to feed, growing larger and growing stronger. So the space pirates want to take the Metroids and figure out how to use them as weapons. So much about Metroid reminds me of the Alien movies. There had to be some inspiration there. An unknown alien species is discovered on a mysterious planet. You mean like when the Nostromo found the aliens for the first time on a mysterious planet? And the space pirates want to use the Metroids as weapons. You mean how the Weyland-Yutani Company and Aliens secretly wants to weaponize the Xenomorphs? Yeah, this whole series is alien-inspired for sure. Anyways, the space pirates took the Metroids and built a base on planet Zebes, Zebes, however the hell you say it. And the Galactic Federation hired Samus to go wipe out their threat. And this is all depicted in the original Metroid and its reimagining, Metroid Zero Mission. Samus annihilates the entire space pirate operation, taking out Ridley, who was responsible for the attack that killed her parents, and Mother Brain, the giant AI working with the space pirates. After the success of the original Metroid, Nintendo came out with a sequel, Metroid 2 Return of Samus. And over the years, the Metroid franchise has expanded with several out-of-order entries. So if you want to get chronological, as of right now, if you include Metroid Federation Force into the mix, Metroid 2 Return of Samus is technically Metroid 7 Return of Samus, which, by the way, has one of the most annoying title screens in a handheld game. It's not even music, just random noises. By the time of Metroid 2, the Galactic Federation knows how dangerous Metroids can be, so they hire Samus to go down to the planet they discovered, SR-388, to wipe out the species for good. And the planet is mostly devoid of life, since the Metroids have been feeding off of everything. You mean like when Ripley lands on LV-426 and discovers the colony devoid of life because there was a xenomorph infestation? And the Alien movie comparisons continue. You know something? PETA would hate Samus. Think about it. She's going into the home of a native species for the sole purpose of exterminating them. And there's no space pirates on this planet, so all the enemies you do face are just the other creatures left on the planet, just trying to live and mind mind their own business while defending themselves against this intruder. That's like you running into the middle of the African safari and blowing away every giraffe, elephant, lion, and cheetah you see for no reason other than the fact that they exist. On top of that, look at the bottom of the screen. There's an indicator showing how many Metroids are left for Samus to slaughter. 39 Metroids on the entire planet. Wouldn't that make them an endangered species technically? Damn, Samus, you are a cold-blooded killer. And Metroid 2 is a lot like the original Metroid game, which is good and not so good at the same time. There's virtually no story other than what your mission is. And just like the first game, there's all sorts of paths you can take while you explore the planet. Part of what does make Metroid such a good series is that feeling of exploration. Going wherever you choose, while finding upgrades that let you open up new paths, like bombs that you can poop out while you're in morph ball mode, high jump boots that allow you to jump higher than normal, and even an upgrade to Samus's suit that introduces the round, bulky shoulders that became her standard look in later games. There's also plenty of upgrades throughout SR388 for Samus's blaster that change the way her energy beams shoot and increase their strength. The exploration factor is usually what makes Metroid so addicting, require you to backtrack to areas you've already been to because you have a new weapon that can blow up a specific wall, but at the same time, exploration is what I think hurts this particular game at the same time. When I was a kid, Metroid 1 and 2 weren't quite classics yet. I actually remember not liking them very much because I always felt completely lost, and I had no idea where to go. I mean, sure, you can draw out your own map as you go, or jump on Google and find a map to print out, but if you like playing games the way they were meant to be played, this can be a bit frustrating and put off newcomers to the series. There's just really no sense of direction. Future games did add an in-game map, which makes an enormous difference to the Metroid experience, and wildly different environments to tell areas apart. Everything in Metroid 2 looks kind of the same. All of these things can be blamed on the technical limitations of the Game Boy, so I'll give it a pass there, but it is hard to go back and play through this game after playing the superior ones that came after it. But when taking the test of time, I just don't think this game holds up very well. And instead of a map, you have a Metroid indicator that starts making noise whenever a Metroid is nearby. And when you see your first Metroid, you'll notice something is wrong. The Metroids in this game are evolving. I think this is one of the cooler aspects of Metroid 2. It's the first time we've seen a Metroid's lifespan. The cute jellyfish with sharp teeth we're used to are just babies. These monsters grow up. So let's take a quick science lesson and look at the Metroid lifespan. Metroids come from eggs that stand upright. Oh, you mean like the facehuggers the Nostromo found on LV-426? Then it progresses into a larva Metroid, which is much larger and constantly hungry. Then the Alpha Metroid forms from the larva's membrane, eventually forming into a Gamma Metroid, which can now generate electricity. Then onto the Zeta Metroid, that now has a more reptilian dinosaur-like appearance, and can spit out hazardous globs of liquid. And the final and most powerful stage, the Omega Metroid, now taller, more muscular, and is extremely resilient to damage. Okay, let me take a quick step back to what I said before. I get why these creatures need to get wiped out now. I get it. They go from little monsters to bigger monsters the longer they live. Oh, you mean like an alien when the xenomorph changes form as the movie progresses? While it was cool to see and fight all the different stages of the Metroids, it does make the game feel a bit repetitive once you see them all. One of the best features of Metroid games are also all the different boss battles, which Metroid 2 replaces with Metroid hunting. I get that that was the whole point of the story, but some additional boss battles would have been nice. As Samus hunts down Metroid after Metroid, earthquakes open up more passages, allowing access to the depths of the planet, until you come face to face with the final boss, the Queen Metroid, the massive beast that's been laying eggs all over the planet. Oh, you mean like when Ripley found the Xenomorph Queen laying eggs all over the planet? This is a pretty impressive looking boss for a Game Boy game, and the strategy to beat her is pretty creative, having to go inside her mouth in morph ball mode and dropping bombs inside her stomach. After destroying the Queen, Samus finds an egg, and out comes the last surviving Metroid. This poor little creature. Samus just annihilated all of its brothers, sisters, and mother, and now their murderer is standing right in front of it. But it mistakes Samus for its mother, and Samus takes pity on it, taking it with her and escaping the planet. Which leads directly to the events in Super Metroid, where the baby Metroid plays a huge role. Metroid 2 Return of Samus is a pretty impressive game on the Game Boy from a technical point of view, but I have to say, to me it's the weakest game in the entire series. So of course, someone had to try and make it better at some point. Just recently, the fan remake AM2R was released on PC, and let me tell you, it was a major improvement over the Game Boy game, so Nintendo shut it down. Now everyone knows Nintendo does not have a good relationship with fans that make mods and different hacks of games. Usually I do crap on Nintendo for shutting down fan projects, but in this case, I completely understand, since Nintendo was working on an official 3DS reimagining of Metroid 2. Metroid Samus Returns. And how did Nintendo do with this updated version? Let's take a look. Whereas the Game Boy version had no story within the game itself, Samus Returns opens up with a beautifully drawn segment going over the events of the original Metroid. Just like before, the space pirates attack a scientific vessel. After they discovered Metroids on SR-388, they break into the ship, stealing the Metroids. Samus tracks down the space pirates and takes out their entire operation along with Mother Brain. Then the Galactic Federation sends out a group of soldiers to investigate SR-388 and the Metroids, only to never be seen again. The Federation realizes that the planet is infested with Metroids and decide that they're too dangerous to be allowed to live and send Samus on her extermination mission. Awesome opening. And just like the Game Boy game, you have to travel throughout the planet, hunting down all the Metroids. This game takes everything about Metroid 2 and improves on it in every way imaginable. Obviously, moving from the Game Boy to the 3DS gives you an enormous boost in technology. And you're also going from a mostly colorless screen to a full color screen with an added 3D feature. And the 3D makes a huge difference in the environment. I wish I could show you guys in this video, but it's just not possible. Usually 3D doesn't impress me very much, but for Samus Returns, the 3D was done right. Instead of having gimmicky effects flying towards the screen, the 3D feature helps create depth in the backgrounds, which gives the illusion of massive environments. Sometimes you'll see crystal caves in the background, creatures just going about their daily business. Nintendo did a great job making the different areas of the planet feel different. From ancient Chozo ruins to a lush jungle-like section, fiery infernos. This is something you really couldn't represent well with the technology of the original Game Boy. And this time around, Samus also has all sorts of new abilities, including a set of moves called Aeon abilities that let her do things like being able to sense breakable objects, lightning armor that protects from damage, shooting beams from her arm cannon at ridiculous speeds, along with all sorts of new power-ups and weapons. And the controls feel much smoother and give Samus the freedom to shoot freely in all directions. And she also has the ability to counter attacks from enemies, leaving them wide open, thanks to Mercury Steam, who helped develop the game, bringing their experience working on the fantastic Castlevania Mirror of Fate, which had a similar move. This is how you do a remake. Instead of copy and pasting what came before and giving it a shiny new paint job, Samus Returns takes that extra step, improving upon it, providing a brand new experience while still remaining familiar. Hunting down the remaining Metroids is much easier thanks to a badly needed map screen, and they're still roaming around in all their various forms. Alpha Metroids float around and launch at you, giving you the chance to parry and light up their bellies with missiles or shots from the Ice Beam. The Gamma Metroids move back and forth in the air, dropping electric balls and firing lasers, and they also crawl around, exposing their face as a weak spot. Zeta Metroids can no longer fly, but they crawl around the screen. And the big daddies. The monstrous Omega Metroids are huge T-Rex lizards that can take a ton of damage and protect their weak spot aggressively. One of my biggest issues with the Game Boy Metroid 2 is that there were virtually no boss fights outside of the repetitive Metroid battles. Samus Returns adds in epic boss battles. The creature known as Arachnus, who was actually an optional boss in Metroid 2, is back in here, beautifully remade. But there's also a brand new boss battle in the form of the Diggernaut. Stupid name, but that's what it is. A Chozo mining robot gone crazy that harasses you throughout the game until you get the chance to destroy it. And like any excellent boss battle, it's got different phases. After avoiding its multiple attacks, dropping a bomb within its drilling arms exposes the face, which you have to blast away at. which eventually exposes underneath, and the Morph Ball Bomb Blast becomes key to winning. It was really nice having new fights thrown in to the experience to break up the monotony of hunting down Metroids, and every time a Metroid is killed, Samus absorbs its DNA, and after collecting enough DNA, these Chozo machines open up deeper areas of the planet, eventually leading to the Queen Metroid. And oh my god, she is so much bigger and is way more dangerous than her previous incarnation. I actually died several times fighting her while trying to figure out all her different attack patterns. But similar to a Mega Man game, once you figure out all the patterns, it's not that difficult. After blowing away the Queen, just like in the old game, Samus finds the last Metroid and spares it. Then it follows her back to the ship, and this is where Samus Returns throws in a huge surprise. So, spoilers ahead. Out of nowhere, Ridley, her nemesis, pops up. He's been watching her the whole time, just waiting for his chance to get his hands on a Metroid, leading to a final battle that most definitely was not in the original. And Samus and Ridley, they throw down with this little baby Metroid getting into the mix, helping out. This whole battle was such a fanboy moment for me, and a pleasant surprise right before the end of the game. After giving Ridley a beatdown, the duo head off the planet. But the surprises don't even end there. After the ending of the game, we get a glimpse of some life form roaming around when a little blob thing flies into it and takes it over. This blew my mind. If you don't understand this reference, Metroid Fusion, which came out in 2002, 11 years after Metroid 2, and it introduced the idea that these floating blobs called X-Parasites were native to SR-388 and spread relentlessly by absorbing different life forms. Metroids happen to be their natural predators, so when Samus wipes out all the Metroids in Metroid 2, the X-Parasites return, leading to the events of Metroid Fusion. Going back and inserting connections to a game that was released over a decade after the original story, building directly into the established lore, was such a fantastic treat for longtime fans of the series. And taking another step deeper into the story, as you clear the world map 100%, you can unlock Chozo memories in the main menu, taking you through the history of the Chozo race on the planet, including showing them landing for the first time, discovering the X-Parasites, then revealing that they created the deadly Metroids specifically for the purpose of hunting down the X-Parasites. But the Metroids became aggressive and started evolving into their more powerful forms, so the Chozo sealed them deep underground and attempted to escape the mess they made, ending with a slide that looks like some sort of betrayal or military takeover. All of these little things really helped expand the story of Metroid, and I really just wanted more of them. Metroid Samus Returns is truly a great return of the classic Metroid series, improving on the original in completely unexpected ways. In a must-play 10 to 11 hour experience, which you can enjoy all over again with an unlockable hard mode. And it keeps the player engaged with what would normally be a really repetitive Metroid hunting experience by having constant upgrades, secret paths, multiple boss battles. This game is the definition of how to update a very average old game and turn it into a modern day classic. I can easily give Metroid Samus Returns a GamerThumbTV seal of quality, only reserved for the finest example of excellence in gaming. If you have a 3DS, go pick it up. I hope you all enjoyed this double review of Metroid 2 and its remake. If you did, leave me a like down below, and if you played the game, leave your comments down below. I always like hearing your guys' opinions. And if you haven't already, remember to subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos, and follow me on Twitter. This is Fabian. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.